So I finally decided to follow my dream. I bought a plot of land right in the middle of a real forest. In the previous episodes, we built a gazebo for cooking and collecting rainwater. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to start the main project, an off-grid forest cabin. The idea is to create a fully self-sufficient tiny home that can generate its own water, electricity, and everything else you need to live comfortably. Yep, we're bringing modern comfort deep into the woods. And where does our story start? Nope, not with the foundation, but with a lumber delivery. If you want a solid build, you need solid wood. We got 23 pieces of first grade 150 by 50 timber. These are heavy-duty 6-meter long boards. This is some seriously good, sturdy lumber, and according to our calculations, it should be enough for the first stage of construction. Alright, everything's unloaded, let's get this thing started. The foundation. Honestly, the most important part of any house. We remembered that screw pile foundations exist, but how do you install one yourself? You're gonna need some tricks, that's for sure. This isn't exactly easy, but we found a solution. A power auger. Here's the deal. A screw pile is basically a giant self-tapped screw. You can drive a screw into wood without drilling a pilot hole, but if you do drill one first, it goes in way easier. And just as important, it goes in straighter. We're applying the same logic to the ground. We set the pile in place and try to screw it in by hand. Yeah, no way that's gonna work. What you really need is this kind of lever arm setup to get some serious torque. We're using 2-meter steel pipes as our lever, and just like that, you work your way through, screwing in one pile after another, smooth and steady. Before installing every new pile, we always check the diagonals and double check the project measurements like 10 times. Nobody wants a crooked cabin. We drill the pilot hole and screw in the next pile. Step by step, we got into a solid rhythm. Some of the piles went in crazy deep, while others hit what felt like a solid wall halfway down. My guess, different soil layers underground. But the important thing is, every single pile is driven below the frost line, which means no frost heave pushing them out this winter. Check it out. The 4 main support posts are in. We realized those 2-meter piles were a bit too much. We couldn't even drive them all the way in most of the time. So for the rest, we went with 1.5-meter ones. Either way, the longer piles would have needed trimming, and the installed depth is exactly the same. Plus, we're not overspending on extra length we don't need. Man, this is not easy work. This might be the most intense cardio I've ever done. We even bent the lever arm and the pipes. But hey, mission accomplished. Okay, maybe they're not perfectly level, but according to our calculations, these twin piles should handle at least 6 tons. Maybe even up to 10 tons in ideal conditions. For a tiny cabin like this, that's way more than enough. Now we need to mark all the pipes to the same height. The most precise tool for this job, a laser level. The beam hits all the pipes at once around the site. After that, you just mark each post with a marker, and boom, they're all set to the same level. Next up, the generator and the angle grinder. We fire up the inventor generator, plug in the grinder, and start cutting the post down to size. It's actually pretty straightforward. In the end, we only needed 2 cutting discs to get all the posts perfectly level. Time to put this to the test. We take a long 6-meter board and check each row of piles, plus the diagonals. And yes, perfectly level everywhere. Man, that's such a relief to see. Next, we mount these cap plates on top of the posts. Ideally, they should be welded on, but unfortunately, our 2 kilowatt generator can't handle a welder. I figure we'll weld them properly later. For now, we're just setting them in place. These cap plates will hold the beams that form the foundation frame. It's crucial to measure and fit each board exactly to the project specs. You know what they say, measure twice, cut once. On a job site, that's not just a saying, it's a mantra you gotta live by. Installing the next board. Now for the screws. These are the good zinc-coated ones. Unlike black screws, these aren't hardened, so there's no risk of them snapping under lateral load. The key is to get everything as perfectly aligned as the boards allow. Check out this beautiful, clean joint. We cut the next board and carried over to the opposite side. Secure it the same way and tighten everything down good. And don't forget the center beam. For the foundation frame, we'll need to build up beams using 3 boards on each side. Now we're installing the second layer. The third one will finish it off. This method means we don't have to haul around heavy 150 by 150 beams, which would be a real struggle to lift even with 2 people. Plus, all the corners end up interlocked way stronger than if we used solid timber. You gotta really clamp those gaps between the boards tight. These bar clamps are perfect for that. I'm using them to pull everything together, then locking it all down permanently with screws. Man, it gets dark so early in the fall. It's not even 6 p.m. and we're already losing light. But the work doesn't stop. We strung up some construction lights powered by the generator and kept pushing through. By the end of the day, the foundation frame was totally done, with those nice strong lap joints. But we're not done reinforcing yet. Time to break out these massive 150mm screws. Good luck driving these without an impact driver. But once they're in, every single corner and beam will be locked in solid. You gotta have that fire and rot treatment. No way around it. Wood preservative is crucial, especially this close to damp ground. We're applying a heavy coat to the entire foundation frame. Our cameraman Ivan volunteered for the messy job, since he had a protective suit. You need to apply bitumen to the bottom and sides of the beams. Those are the spots most exposed to moisture. But I don't recommend coating the whole beam in tar because it really seals the wood pores. The wood can't breathe anymore and ends up rotting from its own trapped moisture. By nighttime, the thermometer hit -2 Celsius, or 28 Fahrenheit. Crazy cold, especially since we're staying overnight in the woods, in fall clothes. Time to make a hot, hearty dinner. Into the cast iron pot goes 3 mugs of water, and I grab the food bag we keep hanging from the ceiling. That's how we protect it from foxes. We drop in 1 bouillon cube, then add any kind of long-lasting meat we have. Sometimes it's hunter sausage, sometimes smoked ribs, and sometimes we just crack open a can of stewed meat. Yeah, we had to come up with some simple but tasty recipes that don't drain your time or energy. We're adding ready-made sautéed veggies to the already rich, smoky broth. Let it simmer for another 5 minutes. This time we ended up with an incredibly delicious and hearty borscht. On a cold fall evening, a soup like this warm you right up, body and soul. You just feel completely content, and it's the perfect time to discuss plans for the next day. Morning greeted us with a finished foundation frame. Seeing it in the sunlight is just incredible. The amount of work we got done in such a short time is just massive, and we're absolutely thrilled. Soon, this remote spot will have a real off-grid cabin, a place to connect with nature and stay warm on cold winter nights. But that's all still ahead. Sharp-eyed viewers probably noticed that fence that's been here since the very first shot. Let's rewind a bit. Back to when the property just had one lonely gazebo. The forest is full of fallen wood, so we decided to gather some for future fence posts. These thin sticks aren't useful to anyone. They're not good for lumber, not even for firewood. This deadwood would just rot away if we didn't collect it. By the way, it's totally legal to gather fallen wood for personal use here. Our vision for the fence is simple. It should blend with the forest atmosphere. It shouldn't block the beautiful view of the woods, so no solid walls. Its job is basic. Mark our property line and let any uninvited guests know this isn't a place to wander into. We gather the poles and load them onto the roof rack. There aren't that many, so we should be able to bring all the deadwood to the site in just a couple of trips. Unload and toss the future posts into one pile. Just like with the foundation piles, we're gonna need the power auger to set these posts. This thing speeds up the work big time. Drilling all those holes by hand would have been a nightmare. Now we treat each post with bitumen, slapping on a good thick coat. Then we can set the post in its hole and pack the soil tight around it. This very first post here, this is where our property fencing story began. We're spacing them 2 meters apart. Clear the turf, drill another hole, measure carefully, then repeat this whole process dozens of times. Not exactly fun or fast. To speed things up, Ivan started coating all these posts with bitumen in advance, while I was drilling. Once they're treated, we can carry each one to its spot and install them one by one. Weather's being moody again. It was all sunny just a minute ago. Then, suddenly, clouds rolled in and covered up the clear sky. This annoying drizzle started coming down, but hey, that's not gonna stop us. We throw on our ponchos and keep going. For the fencing, we're using slab wood. Works perfectly for this. These are exactly 2 meter lengths, sold specifically for fences and utility sheds. This stuff comes from the first cut when they square up the logs at the sawmill. It costs about the same as firewood, but we're not burning these boards. We're putting them to good use instead. We grab a bunch of boards and carry them over to the installed posts. Using our drill or impact driver, we screw 3 boards onto each section. That's more than enough to mark our boundaries clearly without blocking the beautiful forest view. So off camera, this whole fencing project took us 2 full days to complete. Now this place looks like a proper ranch. All we're missing is some livestock and that cabin we need to get back to building. By the way, we've been sleeping in this lightweight summer tent every night, and we've actually perfected our sleep system. First layer is this self-inflating sleeping pad, nice and thick. And for those freezing nights when even a winter sleeping bag isn't enough, this electric heated blanket is a lifesaver. You lay it underneath you, plug it in when needed, and the whole tent fills with warmth from the ground up. This thing has saved us a couple of times already. Alright, back to work. Out here in the woods, the real danger isn't large animals, it's field mice. They'd love to move into our house insulation and spread disease. To keep rodents out, there's this special metal mesh with tiny holes that no mouse can squeeze through. We lay it across the entire foundation and secure it with staples. Gotta overlap the seams properly so there are no gaps. Then we trim off the excess with an angle grinder. Not a single mouse is getting through. But that still leaves us exposed to moisture and wind. So we need both wind and water protection. That's where this membrane wrap comes in. We're trying to do everything by the book, not cutting any corners. The floor will go on top of these joists, with insulation packed between them. Our job right now is to cut the joists and space them exactly 58 centimeters apart. That specific spacing lets the insulation fit snugly without creating any cold gaps. To get the spacing perfect, we pre-cut boards to exactly the length we need between joists. Now we're screwing them in one by one. First to the outer frame and finally to the main foundation frame. Man, what a satisfying sight. Everything's turning out perfectly level and clean. Exactly what we were going for. For insulation, we're using 200mm mineral wool. It's fire resistant, easy to install, and perfect for insulating a frame house. Plus, and this is important, it lets the building breathe, which means no internal condensation. These 120 centimeters wide sheets span 2 joist bays perfectly. We just cut them down the middle and they fit snugly into both sides. No doubt about it, this floor is gonna be incredibly warm. Next up, the vapor barrier. This keeps indoor moisture from soaking into the insulation, which would wreck its performance. And now, for the most exciting moment in over a week of work, installing the floor decking. This officially marks the end of the first and most critical construction phase. We went with tongue and groove boards, just like we used on the treehouse. These things lock together like puzzle pieces, creating one solid surface across the whole floor. Plus, this will be our finished floor. We love the raw look of natural wood. All we'll need to do later is seal it with some protective coating. We're making sure each floorboard gets pulled tight against the next before securing it. Not all boards are perfectly straight. Some have warped over time from moisture, so it takes some real effort to clamp them together properly. Ivan was working like a human clamp, and I was fastening them down with screws. Teamwork made quick work of it, and by evening, we finally finished. I'm sure you're excited to see what happens next. We've got tons of awesome ideas planned for this property. Show us some love. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and definitely subscribe. We're heading to our next adventure, and you'll see it all very soon.